I share a little bit of, behind the scene antics that went on during this film? Because I know whenever the Muppets get together, there's as much craziness behind the scenes as there are in front of the camera. What are some of your memories of some of all of that craziness?
Well, if Tim were here, which I wish he could have been, but Tim would tell you that his first day of shooting was below decks on the ship. So we literally, every ship set was on a giant gimbal. The whole set would move like this. And we did that so that we could put lights up in the stage and have the shafts of light swinging around in the stage. So Tim goes in and he goes, "Oh my God, this is going to make me seasick." And I said, "Well, why don't you take Dramamine?" And he said, "Oh, well, I've never had Dramamine." I said, "Sure, that's what people take for seasickness." I said, "I don't get seasick, so I don't need it." So then, like 3/4 of the group of puppeteers, and it was Tim's first scene. It was the first scene that he did with you guys. Everybody who took the Dramamine could not stay awake. so we were trying to set up the cameras and all, and everyone's asleep. Like literally, puppeteers are asleep with their puppets. Like they're waiting and they're asleep. And I didn't take any. I don't think Kevin did. So, we're wide awake and everyone else is asleep. And Tim is barely awake. And he just looks over at me and he says, "Brian, I'm going to kill you." For making him take the Dramamine. And then, of course, he did the scene brilliantly. And you would have no idea that he was actually falling asleep because he had taken Dramamine.
I remember Billy Connolly used to have all of his banjos and his guitars in his dressing room, and we would go in between takes and we'd sing Beatles songs with Billy and his brother Gene, and we would sing the Beatles with Billy Connolly and the banjo, and you guys, it was mental. It was just it was such a brilliant time, and it just felt like Billy Connolly was so much fun. I mean, he died on like page 13 or something. That was his joke. And when he left, it was almost like, oh my goodness, like where's that energy gone? It was really odd once he'd left, but we managed to pull it round again. But yeah, he was so funny on set. As a 14-year-old kid, I was very interested in everything that was going on, and Billy had tons and tons of patience. I remember it was he was brilliant.
I remember being really nervous because this was my first movie and I was doing things for the first time, and I was working with Jerry on Blind Pew and I was doing the hands, and I wanted to pull his curls. It was like a thing I wanted to do.
Billy Connolly's curls.
Yeah, Billy Connolly's curls. Yeah. And I remember like asking if it was okay. And he was just, he was just like, "Yeah, whatever you want to do," my bad accent. But he was just really playful and just, again, like you said, just the stories. And I could have just sat there all day and just listened to him.
Another thing I remember about Billy is that he would eat in the canteen with everybody else. He would sit with any table, anybody on the crew, and tell stories and just laugh with them and play. And he was like a working man. He was just so...
He just liked being there, didn't he?
What's another good story? Oh, when Jim Hawkins beaches the ship, we really did beach the ship. We really pushed a full-size ship on a stage in a 4-foot deep water tank and pushed it into a beach set. But not surprisingly, because the ship weighed so many tons, it went right through the beach set. So we only did one take at the end of the day, and the ship hit the beach set, and all I could hear was people under the set saying, "Clear the stage," because the ship went right through the side of the tank, and all of the water spilled out, and they had to turn the electricity off, and the stage, we all had to rush out. Yep. We only got one take of that. There was only one take of the ship grounding.
I remember the gimbal, the huge pirate ship. Didn't it have a dial on it that it had full rock and roll, and it mimicked the exact motion of a boat, and so it had different levels of storm.
Yeah,
and I remember that weren't we using like a very early green screen that was actually blue screen at the time? Isn't that right?
Well, blue screen and green screen, it actually for us older folks, blue screen is the older one. It used to always be blue screen, and then it switched to green screen, which has to do with the receptors in a video camera, because blue screen started mostly for video. And then green screen, we can't use when we shoot Kermit, because Kermit is exactly the same color green. So whenever it's Kermit that's being composed, if Kermit's even in the group, we have to use blue screen. But I think we did use blue for all of the ocean stuff when we were out on the ship deck, on the top deck.
Because it was quite pioneering technology, because nobody really realized that you'd shot all that stuff at sea months and months before.
It was my head of visual effects, Tom Smith. He was able to go with his wife and with a cameraman, and they went to the Caribbean for 3 weeks. They got to charter a yacht, and then they had to negotiate with a garbage barge shipping company to paint one of their garbage barges red. And they could shoot the garbage barge knowing that they had a good matte line between the water and the garbage barge, because the garbage barge was painted red.
Wow.
And then in post-production, we would then take the boat, the ship that was a model, a 10-foot long model, maybe 12, that we were rocking in the States. And then we would matte that into the ocean where the red garbage barge had been. But yeah, Tom Smith, he would send us pictures. How are you doing down there, Tom? He'd go, well, we didn't get a shot today. He'd say, we're just trying to get shots at sunrise and sunset because that's what looks good. And then afterwards, I found out they were just like sailing all around the Caribbean islands during the day. They just got the greatest 3-week vacation they could get. And maybe to this day, there's still a red garbage barge in the Caribbean islands. I don't think so.